Welcome back on this glorious and amazing day to all my awesome and delightful scholars and guests that came to join me for the fourth reason why we overthink. Children, teens, and adults. And not only do we overthink, but even many of us that we come to a decision, we come back the next day and we say, did we make the right decision? And we always contemplate if we did the right thing. One of the many reasons why we overthink is one word, enmeshment. And that is when parents are enmeshed and they're like, it's almost like a mother subconsciously feeling, since you were part of me for 9 months, you will be part of me for the rest of your life, even though I know you're separate. But we want so many times as parents, not only mothers, but fathers, that the child should be like us. And in many situations, sadly, this is very deep, and we can make maybe a whole series about this, which I might, is that when we do not succeed in one part of our lives, we want that part of our lives that we dreamt that we couldn't do, that it should be manifest, and it should be, what's the word I'm looking for? Exercise. There's another word, but it'll come to me later. Through our children. We want that our children should do the stuff that we could not do. And that's very, very hurtful. And I'll finish up with a little story, a beautiful story, a story, that shocked me a little bit, but not really. And this happened, I would estimate 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And that's when I was doing private bar mitzvah classes, training young boys into becoming men. When they turn 12, teach them how to chant their Torah portion as they become a bar mitzvah. Besides just teaching them their personal Torah portion as they celebrated that beautiful milestone in their life, I would have these little tiny talks here and there. And one of my talks is, do you know what it means to become bar mitzvah? And everyone gave the typical answer. But my answer was very, very different, from a different perspective that most rabbis, most parents, grandparents, or teachers would teach. And I shared this with their student. And as I shared my perspective with the student, the mother, like so many mothers or fathers, would sit in the waiting room of my office and they would listen in to our classes. Some parents would just drop off their kids, and their kids ran up to the 4th floor, came into my office, had their class, and poof, they ran running back downstairs for their mom or grandparents to pick them up. This mother happened to sit in the waiting room while I was sitting and explaining this topic to my amazing, darling student. And apparently she overheard our conversation. And I told him that this perspective you most probably will not hear anywhere, but you'll hear it over here. And I told this young man, like I told all my men, to become a bar mitzvah, it is that time where you really take the leap and you become independent, your own person. A child, although they know when they get hungry, they know when they want to eat, they want to do, but overall you have the parents looking after them. Every month you grow older, there's less participation of parents. And as you grow older, there is less participation of parents. When you become bar mitzvah, you become your own person. And one of the main focuses is who am I? Who am I? Now that I'm a man and I don't reside in my parents' shadow, I want to get to know my desires, my own passions, my own philosophy. They don't have to be like my parents or grandparents. And in a very eloquent way, I teach them how something that's not taught so much in school, but to be truthful to themselves and not look around and say, since no one else is speaking or thinking that way, that might be weird if I am that way. No, because if that's what makes you happy, that's what makes you happy. So for example, I could tell my bar mitzvah boys, I don't think I told them this example, I told them, all my peers do certain things to make them happy, relaxed. Me personally, I go camping, close my phone, just indulge in serenity. I never look to see who is doing it or who is not doing it, because that works for me. If I like a food that no one else likes, that's okay. And I go on for a long lesson, which we won't go on now. Here comes the main part of the story. I'm done with the class, and the mother walks over to the door, picks up her son, and the mother asks me a question. And she says, I was listening to your lecture or what you were teaching my son. So do you mean to say that I need to stop telling him that when he grows older, he should be a dentist like my father is? And I go, people will succeed, really succeed, if they do something that they're very passionate. And if your beautiful son would want to be a scientist, or he's going to want to be a certain type of lawyer, or whatever he's going to want to be, he will be extremely successful, and he will run with his passion. He might be able to become a dentist, but it wasn't because it was his fire, his intuition, his love, his passion. It was more, if my parents or grandparents are saying that, it must be right. And we won't get into how many people fail, do not make it through university, because the question is, was it really their idea at their heart, or did they convince themselves because they knew everyone is going to be proud? And since we live in this disgusting world of conditional love, which is not blaming anyone, because this is a virus. Sometimes viruses go around the whole community. This, to me, is called the emotional virus of conditional love. And we know if we will achieve to become the doctor or lawyer that my parents want, they'll be proud and we'll make it. And forget about the will be in their will, because we really please them. If you want a happy child, let your child just be themselves, because they will run. And I am blessed. And I will thank my mother in heaven and my father that's halfway on earth that they did not get involved. They did not get involved. Sometimes the not involvement is great. And when I was a child, it was in my heart that I wanted a garden. And my parents could have said, oh, no, you're not going to take out the grass. What are you going to do? You're going to make a mess. My child is happy. They gave me, I think I still have a picture of it. They gave me 10 feet by 10 feet. I took out the grass and I put soil, and I had my own vegetable garden. I used to live with it. It kept me alive. And so many more things that they did not get into the way. It would be nice if I would have gotten nurtured, but hey, let me count my blessings. And my blessing was that I realized as I get older that I have had, that so many don't have, is they did not get into my way. And I did what I wanted to do, what I was passionate of doing, and blessed them. And we will continue on next week. But lots of respect for this mother, because usually parents would argue with me. But she came with such humility and said, do you mean that we need to stop nagging him and convincing him that one day the ultimate thing that he could do is to become the dentist like my dad? I'm curious, because this bar mitzvah man must be 22, 23. I might never know in my lifetime where he is, because it's hard to keep track of over 836 bar mitzvah men that I had the honor to train, and a few more as well. But it is what it is. One day, I might be surprised that this young man went and did what he wanted to do, and he's so successful. And like all my students, I am proud of each and every one for their great light, for their great love and intelligence and brilliance and character that I was lucky to get because somehow I only got the best students of the universe, and I'm so grateful for it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for remembering that you are way greater than you think you are, even though your desires are very different than anyone else's.